On the outskirts of the village of Shidon, Sevian yawned while helping her mother clean up in the kitchen after a long overdue family lunch. Her father was already on his way back to the planet's capital of Eromanga, and her mother would be back to teaching at the academy tomorrow. Very rarely did Sevian get to spend time with both her parents, so when she did, she treasured it. Even she was regularly busy with studies at the academy. Looking out the window as they were nearly finished cleaning, Sevian sighed peacefully. These were the moments she craved, because they were so few and far apart. Though it's not like she didn't enjoy her training and studies, as torturous as they sometimes could be. At least she was only attending a small academy, as Shidon was a decent ways out from the capital. She knew full well how hard and strict the big academy in Eromanga was from the many stories she heard. As she looked out over the peaceful landscape, a bright light in the sky caught her attention. It looked like a ball of fire that was plummeting down to the planet, an asteroid perhaps. With its size, she figured it would burn up before it made contact with the ground, but the longer she watched it, the more she grew to realize it wasn't a normal asteroid. It didn't burn up at all. It kept its size perfectly. Bits and pieces fell off, sure, but whatever it was seemed strong. Curious, Sevian closed her eyes and reached out, expanding her mind through the force until she found the object. And much to her surprise, she sensed something inside it. Something living. Opening her eyes once again, the young brunette saw the object crash into the ground not far away from her home. The life she sensed faded slightly, but was still there. Whatever it was must have been severely hurt in the crash, she realized. "Hey, Mum, I'm gonna go out for a bit," Sevian called out, grabbing her jacket and attaching her lightsaber to her belt for safety, as well as a first aid kit. "Very well, dear, but don't be too long. I probably won't be home when you return, and you have a lesson this afternoon." Her mother responded from the other room. Sevian hurried outside and jumped on her speeder bike, an old thing she and her friend had fixed up during their time at the academy together. She quickly sped off in the direction of the impact, seeing smoke rising from the site. It only took her a few minutes to get there. When she arrived, she stared in awe at the object. It appeared to be a spacecraft of some sort, something she hadn't really seen before outside of holodocs at the academy. Though this one seemed smaller than the pictures she had seen, and the descriptions she had read. She quickly recalled one of her studies on ancient history that had mentioned bigger starships regularly had things called escape pods for emergencies. Could this perhaps be an escape pod from a doomed vessel? Sensing the life form inside slowly fading, Sevian put her curiosity to the side momentarily and climbed up to what she assumed was the back of the pod. It took a little fiddling, but she soon managed to open a hatch and peer inside. The inside was a complete mess with sparks and fires, making it extremely dangerous. Sevian very quickly saw a girl in a black cloak sitting to the side, evidently unconscious but very faintly breathing. Her face was scratched and dirty. A jacket was tied around her stomach with a huge bloodstain on it, and she appeared to have burns on her hands. Using the force, Sevian undid the girl's straps and lifted her out of the burning pod, placing her gently on the ground a little distance away. Once she made sure there was nothing else in the pod, she jumped down and crouched next to the injured girl. "Alright, I'm gonna try to fix you up. A little bit. I don't think I can do a lot here though, but maybe I can stop this bleeding," Sevian said to the unconscious girl as she pulled out the first aid kit. Rummaging through, she found some saline, rags and bandages. First, she untied the jacket from around the girl's stomach, slowly pulling the bloodstained article of cloth away and revealing a somewhat shallow stab wound. Sevian quickly grabbed a rag and poured saline on it, using it to try to clean around the wound while doing her best to use pressure to prevent too much blood loss. Once she was sure the wound was clean enough, she took out the bandages and began wrapping them around the girl's stomach, making sure they were tight enough before cutting it off and tying it up. Next, she pulled out some burn ointment from the first aid kit and began applying it to the girl's hands, before checking over her body once more and finding a few more burn marks under her socks, as well as a blaster mark near her left knee. She treated them just the same, before going back to her speeder bike and grabbing a bottle of water. "Time to wake up, sleepyhead," she quietly grinned, crouching beside her once again and pulling the girl's head into her lap. She poured a little bit of water over the girl's face, smiling when the cold liquid made her stir. A cough and a groan escaped the girl, before her eyes slowly opened. It took her a minute or so to focus properly, but Sevian saw her eyes finally lock onto her. She sensed a moment of panic, followed by curiosity and relief. "Feeling a little better?" Sevian gently asked, lightly rubbing the girl's head. The silver-haired girl coughed again, wincing at the pain from her stomach as she did so. "Yeah, have some water." Sevian offered the water bottle, and the girl gladly drank from it. Slowly, and evidently painfully, the girl sat up on her own, now getting a proper look at Sevian, before glancing back at the escape pod, and then down at her bandaged wound. "You saved me," she quietly said, so quietly that Sevian almost hadn't heard her. "Well, what else was I supposed to do? I couldn't just leave you in there to die," Sevian responded with a gentle smile. The girl looked up at her again. "Thank you." Her quiet voice once again just barely reached Sevian's ears. "You're welcome, but take it easy. You're still injured. It's gonna take a long time to heal from that crash," Sevian urged as the girl tried to get up, but failed. She nodded, choosing simply to sit on the ground and look around at her surroundings. "You got a name?" Sevian asked. The girl looked at Sevian once more, seeming to hesitate, before her gaze fell slightly lower and she seemed to notice something. "Arya. My name's Arya," she whispered. "Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Arya. I'm Sevian, though my friends all call me Sev." Sevian introduced herself, getting up and dusting herself off as she picked up the first aid kit and put it back on her speeder bike. Glancing back, she saw Arya's gaze tracking something at her waist. Her lightsaber, she quickly realized. "Why do you still show your lightsaber so openly? Aren't you afraid of the Empire?" Arya asked, the volume of her voice finally managing to increase, even just a little. "The Empire? I'm not really sure I follow. There's no Empire here," Sevian said, slightly confused. Arya sighed. She wasn't sure whether to feel relieved or worried. If Sevian was a Jedi, then had she perhaps been sent here on a mission and was still unaware of the clone's betrayal? But if the Empire hadn't reached this world, then maybe it would be a safe place for Arya and Sevian to lay low. Though the young Jedi still sensed the dark side clouding everything around her. She wanted to ask Sevian about it, but maybe it was for the best that she take things slow. Relaxing slightly now that she could feel a warm, caring feeling emanating from Sevian in the Force, she allowed herself to open up to the feeling, just a little bit. Sevian sensed it and smiled again, sending reassurance to her via the Force. "Come on, let's get you back to my place. I can have you heal better there, and it's way more comfortable than just sitting in the dirt," Sevian smirked, walking back over to Arya. "Thank you." Arya graciously accepted Sevian's aid as the brunette put her arm under Arya's shoulder and helped pull her to her feet. Arya winced slightly, but followed Sevian to her speeder bike. Once more getting help from Sevian, she climbed on the back, and when Sevian hopped on too, the young Jedi held on tight. "You're kinda lucky you landed out here, you know. If you were closer to the city, they probably wouldn't have offered much help if I'm being honest. Here in Shidon, things are a lot more lax. Even the academy isn't anywhere near as strict as in Eromanga," Sevian said as they rode towards the nearby village. "Where exactly are we? If the Empire isn't here, then we must be pretty out of the way," Arya inquired. "You're on Etchi. We haven't really had many visitors in a very long time, so you're safe from this Empire, whatever it is," Sevian explained. Arya had never heard of the Etchi system, and considering the freighter was already in wild space when it was taken over by pirates, there's a pretty good chance she was a long way from any Imperial worlds now. The two girls quickly arrived at a house on the outskirts of the village, and Sevian helped Arya inside, guiding her to a couch where Arya was able to lay down and take the stress off her injured body. "I'll get some more medical supplies later tonight. For now, would you like something to eat? I've got some food left over from lunch," Sevian offered. Yes, thank you." Arya nodded, hearing her stomach audibly growl at the mention of food. Sevian snickered at that and pulled out what was left of the lunch he had helped to make. heating it up and serving it to the silver-haired girl. Once Arya had finished eating, Sevian changed her bandages and left the girl to get some rest. After all, the brunette did still have a training session to attend that afternoon, one she was already late for. She knew neither of her parents would be home for days, if not weeks, so she was comfortable leaving Arya sleeping in the living room while she sped off on her speeder bike to the academy in town. When she arrived, she quickly jumped off her bike and sprinted to where her master was waiting for her. "You're late, Apprentice Morse," the older man scolded. "I'm sorry, my master. Something came up that I couldn't leave." Sevian bowed in apology. "Very well. You're excused for today. But try not to let it happen again," her master said. "I want to test your skills with a lightsaber today. I do hope you haven't neglected that side of your studies." "No, master. I've practiced my saber techniques every day," she responded. "We shall see if that's really the case." The two stood across from each other, both grabbing their lightsabers. Sevian raised the hilt in front of her, igniting it. The blood-red blade matching the color her normally brown eyes became as the young Sith apprentice allowed the dark side flow into her. Sevian bowed, moving her blade into a defensive position as the two began circling the training field. At last, Sevian's master made his move, striking forward at the young Sith who moved her lightsaber to push his aside, bringing it back towards him to try and cut him down. His saber was too quick though, as it blocked her own strike and pushed her back. She was forced to block another few quick swings, her master not giving her a chance to go on the offensive while trying to back her into a corner. Thinking quickly, Sevian turned, blocking the incoming lightsaber once more before it hit her back, and began running into the corner she was almost trapped in. Calling the force through her movement, she leapt onto the wall and pushed off, flipping over her master before landing and immediately swinging as quickly as she could at the man, doing her best to force him on the defensive. Her skill could only take her so far though, as her blade was locked to the side, and the man punched her in the chest. She grunted as she fell onto her back, her master's red lightsaber blade coming just a few centimeters away from her face, as her own lightsaber fell from her hand and deactivated. "Lousy, Apprentice Morse. Get up," he ordered, turning his lightsaber off. Sevian did as she was told, getting to her feet despite the pain in her head from falling onto concrete. "As always, you lack conviction," he stated firmly, sending a short blast of force lightning at Sevian. She winced in pain, but remained standing, letting out a grunt. "You are not willing to do what has to be done to achieve victory," the man sneered, letting another short burst of lightning hit the girl. She yelped in pain this time, almost losing her footing. "You are a disgrace to the Sith." This time he shot lightning at Sevian consistently, forcing the girl to her knees, her face contorted in pain as her voice cried out. Sevian's anger rose within her, the pain fueling her as she called upon the dark side of the Force. She closed her eyes as the electricity coursed through her body, making her spasm and writhe in agony. Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Letting her anger flow through her, she stilled herself. Through passion, I gain strength. She pushed off the ground, pulling herself to her feet slowly. Through strength, I gain power. She pulled her lightsaber to her hand with the force. Through power, I gain victory. The lightsaber ignited as she finally stared directly at her master, using the pain, the anger, allowing it to fill her and give her power. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall set me free. She charged at the older man with a scream of pure rage. The Force lightning finally stopped, and he was forced to ignite his saber again to block Sevian's incoming strike. The young girl struck hard and fast, eyes a blood red as her rage guided her movement, the dark side becoming the only ally she needed. The master simply smirked. Good. Give in to your anger, your hatred. It makes you strong. Use it to defeat me and reach your destiny. A momentary feeling of uncertainty entered Sevian. Was this really the only way to gain power in the dark side? Anger and hatred made her strong, yes, but she briefly wondered if there could be more to it. That momentary lapse of concentration was all her master needed though, as her blade was pushed aside and she once again got pushed to the ground. Her master sneered once more. "It seems you still have much to learn." That was something she could certainly agree with.